Came to the United States in 1977, fully trained as an MD, PhD in medicine. He actually lives here in Amherst with his wife, Tabasa. 3 children he has that are no longer living with him. He has 4 grandchildren. He was on the school board at Williamsville for 7 years. He is currently a UB professor, program director of internal medicine, and has a medical practice here on Transit Road in Depew for 30 years. Now he is a full-time training doctor in internal medicine at Sisters Hospital, and what he's here to talk about is he is the founder and president of MPACT, which stands for Muslim Public Affairs Council of Western New York. And that's actually how I met Dr. Qazi and his relational activities in the activities between the Jewish and the Christian and the Muslim communities. He's a real big advocate for that. He gave a wonderful letter the day that Osama bin Laden was killed, and he explained how he was against the Muslims too, not against just Americans. That is their side of an understanding that terrorism is to them as well. And I'd like to welcome a fellow, Paul Harris Fellow, and Dr. Khalid Qazi.
Thank you very much, Doug, for the introduction, and thank you, Doug, for getting in touch with me, and he called. Now you know, Doug, he's down to earth man. He called and said, "Dr. Qazi, do you believe in free speech?" Now, when somebody asks you a question like that, get ready. I said, "Yeah, I do." Then he said, "You won," so here I am. But anyway, it's a real pleasure to be here. And I mean, as Paul was mentioning, that Muslim and Islam is in the news more often than we like it to be, at least the way it is. So I was struggling as to what I can present in 15-20 minutes and then open it up for questions. And I was thinking that if you came with a set of questions, and I'm sure you did, and then left back with the same set of questions, then I wasted your time. So hopefully you will leave with a bigger set of questions, but those questions will be totally different than you came with. So I'll take you around a little bit and see where we go, and hopefully there will be time for questions, and please interrupt anytime. This is not in my classroom that I usually do, so you interrupt me. I like that, you know. That might also bring me down to my real life. That happens at home. And if you have a chance to connect into this website, mpac.org, mpac.org, it will give you a reasonably good idea as to what we are all about. And when I say what we in this context, it means the Muslim Public Affairs Council. It's a relatively new organization, and I really applaud the the objectives and the work Rotarians do. And I was recognized by my own hometown, town of Amherst, Paul Harris Fellow, a decade ago. And this is my family. This is my wife, Tabasso, and this is my second son, first son, my baby girl. This is my son-in-law. This is at their actually wedding, and this is his wife and my grandson. And these are my 3 kids, my 3 kids and 2 grandsons. And typical, right? This is my granddaughter, and last week I had a 4th granddaughter. So when I was talking to you, the reason I didn't respond right away was I was in Florida in OR. My daughter was given birth. And this is my second home, the best hospital in the region. This is a 30-second commercial. And There is, and I'm not kidding, there is no hospital like this. The mission of this hospital that attracted me to this place at a time when employers in U.S. would send, paychecks in advance. Hey, we need docs, can you come? And send a limo to the airport. And you would get a number of, contracts and offers in advance. But I stayed here because I really love this place. That this hospital has an unbelievable mission. And even in times of, when the money wasn't there, the mission was still there. So I really like that. And this is what I do in everyday life these days. I train doctors. Who then take care of us. So I want to make sure we got the right doctors being trained here. This is one of my rounds at Sisters Hospital. This is my graduating class last year from UP. And maybe you might have heard this name, but I think every Western New Yorker should know Austin Flint. And you go back a couple centuries, back in 1848, there was a huge cholera epidemic in Buffalo. And there was nobody to take care of people dying. And Bishop Hyman, at the time, was desperate what to do. So he sent out an SOS, and 3 nuns came from Boston that established the first hospital in Buffalo that became Sisters Hospital, Sisters Charity Hospital. And this is the first chief of medicine at Sisters, Austin Flint. He also came from Boston. And he established Sisters Medicine Department. And he also established the University of Buffalo Medical School. So Austin Flint has a huge connection to Buffalo. And then he donated the farm, he had farm on Maine and Delaware, where Sisters Hospital is today. That's a farm that was owned by Austin Flint and donated to Daughters of Charity, and they built the Sisters Hospital. By the way, Sisters initially was where Buffalo General is today, pretty close to that on Middle Street. Okay, so back to MPAC. Muslim Public Affairs Council, as I mentioned, is a relatively new child. It's a growing infant. We started this just in 2004 and inaugurated in Buffalo, barely not, just over 7 years ago. And what are our main objectives? First is that the engagement of youth, and that is primarily because the youth, I feel, and we feel, is the future of Muslims in America. And if we are not connected with our youth, and it ain't easy to be connected with youth. These are, every time I'm told that I don't know how to talk to my kids. But nevertheless, that is one of our main objectives, to be able to engage the youth, to keep them, firm on ground in terms of their culture, religion, to the extent possible, as well as to be good citizens, because in this age of internet, we really don't know what our kids do in the privacy of their homes. So this is a huge, huge issue. Second is that we are very heavy in interfaith dialogue. We want to be able to talk to our neighbors and our friends. We want them to know us, and we want to know them. There is the largest interfaith group in Western New York, and I think we are blessed to have a really organized dialogue between the faith groups. It is done through what is called as NRC, Network of Religious Communities, and I was one of the founding members of that. Prior to that, there was another organization, what used to be called as BAM, B-A-M-M, Buffalo Area Metropolitan Ministries, back in the 70s and 80s. But we are pretty actively involved with that, and I hope we can continue it and enhance it to the extent possible. One of the major areas of MPAC is counterterrorism. And in that area, we work with government agencies very closely. And those agencies are primarily from the Department of Homeland Security and Department of Justice. And we have created some projects in Western New York that have become pilot for the country. And those projects have been taken nationally also. And maybe I'll come back to that in a minute. And then obviously we want to make sure that counterterrorism is done in a fashion that compromises our civil rights to the least. Because if we compromise our civil rights and civil liberties, then we lost what America was built on. And that is the struggle that we always have. How can we maintain our national security? How are we going to secure our homeland without compromising our civil liberties to the extent that, you know, we are afraid? And we have compromised our civil liberties to some extent lately. And then MPAC works really as an interface between the Muslim community on one hand and the federal agencies on the other hand. You know, what does that mean? That means that Muslims leadership in Western New York and general membership will be brought together by MPAC to a forum on the one hand, and all the federal agency heads on the other hand. So we'll sit down across the table and talk to each other and exchange ideas and issues. The community will bring up issues so the federal agencies can hear them directly and give their feedback. And the federal agencies can bring up the issues they may have, and the community leadership can hear it and give a feedback. So this informal dialogue and discourse that we started back in 2005 has become a very robust sort of an interaction between the Muslim community and the law enforcement agencies especially. And it is a very unique experience we've been able to create to secure our homeland. The next is that we would like to, and we generally are pretty good in doing a community outreach. For example, this is an example of that. Anytime we receive a call, we want to make sure that we are able to address what the community requirements are. And by doing so, what has happened is that we have really become the primary resource about Muslims and Islam in our region, and to some extent nationally as well, to civic groups, to media, to government agencies, etc. And this is something that I think we have invested an awful lot of resources and time in doing so. So, the other thing that has come out of our interactions with the government agencies is that we've been able to create training courses for various law enforcement agencies and officials that is critically important for their work and our contribution to our community and our society. So we do training courses for a lot of different organizations and bodies, but the law enforcement is especially important. And we do for school districts, we do for some businesses as well. So, switch the gears a little bit. I think you know the demographics of Muslims. It's periodically on the media and channels. However, what's less frequently known is what is the percentage of Arabs and non-Arabs? Because generally, when we start thinking about Muslims and Islam, we automatically think that all Muslims are Arabs or all Arabs are Muslims, and neither one of them is true. All Muslims are not Arabs. 20% or less, maybe perhaps 18 to 20% of Muslims are of Arab extraction. In other words, 80% of Muslims are non-Arabs. And the converse is also true, that all Arabs are not Muslims. 80% Arabs are Muslims, 20% Arabs are not Muslims. And in fact, if you look at Arabs in the United States, the majority of Arabs in the United States are Christians, not Muslims. And for example, in our own region, in Western New York, the largest Arab group is Lebanese Christians. So it's important to remember that we can't look at Islam from the prism of Arabs. And that's the fundamental mistake the United States did for a long time. We looked at every Muslim issue from the prism of Arabs when we were missing 80% of Muslims. So the oil had a tremendous influence on our thinking. It still is. Don't get confused about that. We still have an awful lot of thinking based on oil. However, the vast majority of Muslims don't live in the Arab lands. For example, the most populous Muslim country is Indonesia. The second most populous Muslim country is Pakistan. These numbers are about 3-4 years old. This probably should be close to 160. This is close to 190. India is not a Muslim country, but that has the third largest group of Muslims in the world, which is probably closer to 140 now. Bangladesh is the fourth largest Muslim country. The first Arab country that cracks this is Egypt at number 6. So just to illustrate that minority of Muslims are Arabs, not the majority. So that's the answer to your question. By the way, that teaser I thought to give you, and I can go over it at the end in case I don't address all the questions in my formal comments. Okay, so Muslims invest in New York. There is no accurate exact count, and this is my guesstimate based on a few facts, that probably around 20-25 Muslims in 6 counties of western New York. That does not include Rochester. Rochester also has a large Muslim population, but it's not included here. Arabs are about 30%, approximately. And the 2 largest Arab communities, Muslim Arab communities in western New York is, number 1 is Palestinians, number 2 is Yemenites from Yemen in Lackawanna. And most of them initially came through Henry Ford's project in Detroit, in auto industry back in 1920s and 1930s. And some of them finally gravitated to Buffalo, the Bethlehem steel and rubber industry and auto industry. So now we have First Ward and the adjoining area in Lackawanna having a large population of Yemenites. So those are the 2 largest Arab communities in western New York. But after that, any Arab country and every Arab country is represented in western New York. You name it, we got them. It's a microcosm of the entire Arab world. Large number of them came as a labor force or small businesses, and that tradition has still continued, that a large number of Arabs in western New York are either small businesses or in labor force, but the newer generations are expanding out into all professional fields. An equal number of Muslims in western New York is from South Asia. That's India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Kashmir, Bangladesh, Iran, and the adjoining areas. Most of these are professionals, doctors, engineers, teachers, and if you go to any educational institution, whether you go to UB or Buck State or ECC or Fredonia or any other place, you'll see a large number of South Asian Muslims on the faculty. And for example, I'm from Kashmir. We have, I want to say at least 40 to 45 physicians just from Kashmir in greater Buffalo area, practicing as cardiologists, neurologists, neurosurgeons, surgeons, gynecologists, etc. So this is a second, large group of Muslims working in western New York. The third is African American. And I'm not talking about Nation of Islam. I'm talking about mainstream Muslims and who follow the mainstream Islam. And about 25%. And they are, a lot of them concentrated in Buffalo. There are several mosques also. And the fourth is a miscellaneous group that includes a newer population of refugees. And I think you might have read it or you may know that Buffalo is becoming a station for a good number of refugees on east side and west side of Buffalo. I want to say maybe over the last 7-8 years, we probably settled over 10,000 refugees in this area. So while as we're losing population each decade, there's a population that is growing up in Buffalo and contributing to the economy, and that's the refugee population from across the globe. So that's the fourth group of Muslims that is, settling in western New York. So, couple, I'm taking a whirlwind tour. Couple, tell me how many minutes I got, I'll stop. One of the interfaith programs that we do every year that is combined with a community service is what I call Tent of Abraham, where we invite all the faith groups or no faith groups into breaking a fast. One of the tenets of Islam is to fast for 1 month during a month what is called as Ramadan in our calendar. And we do that, this past year we did it on August 18th. This year we'll be doing it on August 2nd in 2012. And this is just a scene of breaking the bread together. And then we also introduced an Abrahamic walk with this Tent of Abraham. And these are the walkers in the Heim Middle School parking lot.
Doctor, you said that was interfaith?
Yes. So what happens is that it's a 5 mile, 4 mile, and 1 mile walk. The 5 mile walk starts from, I don't know how many of you may know, North Presbyterian Church in Amherst, which is near Main Street and to Thruway. We start a walk from there, then we stop, these are the walkers, then we stop at Temple Bethel on Sheridan. So that's a 1 mile walk from the church to the synagogue. Then we pick up more walkers from Temple, and then we'll go to the school and we'll pick up more walkers. And then we finally end in the mosque in Amherst. So this has become a great event, interfaith event, as well as a community outreach program. And we collect non-perishables and cash donation. And whatever is collected, MPAC matches dollar for dollar and gives out to food pantry, you know, and Viva la Casa. So this is 6 years running, 7 years. The second program I'm running quickly because I there's a very limited time, so it might seem that I'm rushed, is Bridges program that I mentioned. This is building respect in diverse groups to enhance security, where we get the federal agencies and the Muslim leadership together to enhance security. And we've been recognized for that from Department of Homeland Security in Washington. We also introduced an FBI Citizens, you know, the FBI has a Citizens Certification Program. I have attended that and I'm certified. But then we wanted to take this program into the community. And we created this pilot with FBI that we call CREST, Community Relations Executive Seminar Training. We have already done 3 courses of that, and we were recognized for that also. FBI Director gives an award each year to organizations or individuals that do something constructive across the country, and we were recognized a few years ago. So, think about jihad or holy war. Do you think you are in jihad? Classic example. Are you trying right now, struggling to understand what I'm saying? I'm struggling to tell you what I want to tell you, right? It's an effort. I'm striving. And that's jihad. So you are in jihad as much as I am in jihad. Jihad simply means to strive for, to struggle. Struggle for what? To be the best person you can be. The best father you can be, the best mother you can be, the best friend you can be, the best neighbor you can be, the best physician you can be, the best businessman you can be. That's what jihad is. The highest level of jihad in Islam is the personal struggles that we go through every day to be the best we can. In that context, you're doing jihad every single day. To stay as honest as you can. To stay as good a citizen as you can, right? You think you're Muslims? Think about it. That's what jihad is. This is the highest level. Jihad has 3 levels. This is the highest level of jihad in Islam. The personal struggles that we go every single day to be the best you can be, to be the most honest you can be. Then there are other levels of jihad. You can take it to the local level, and you can define the local level. Is the local level Akron? Is the local level county of Erie? Is the local level state of New York? Or is it national level? You know, it depends. It depends on you, how you want to take it, how you want to define it. And then lesser jihad is jihad at the international level. And it is clearly mentioned in Quran, our holy book, that we should help those who are oppressed. And that's where these issues come into place. Palestine, Iraq, Afghanistan, where many Muslims may feel and do feel that these lands are occupied and they should be liberated. And then they will gravitate to those places to help them. That's also one form of jihad. Okay. Anybody seen these pictures? Right? What's common in this picture? Maryam. You will always see Maryam covered, fully clothed, except her face, her hands, and her feet. Okay? That's how Maryam's dress is. Maryam is the model for a Muslim woman. In our holy book, there are 30 chapters. One chapter is devoted to Maryam. There's no other woman or a man that has a chapter devoted to him or her in our holy book except Maryam. That should tell you something. Because Islam, we believe, is the continuation of Judeo-Christian axis or tradition. So Judeo-Christian Islamic tradition emanates from the same paternal grandfather, Abraham. That's why we call them Abrahamic faiths. So this being the model of a Muslim woman, here is how Muslim women generally you see in America. It's again a freedom of choice. Women may use their scarf or headgear or may not. I guess it's 50-50. 50% use it, 50% don't use it. Or maybe even more than 50% don't use it. So this is the reason that Muslim women have a scarf or a garb on. However, you know that no matter where you go, the religion picks up local cultural traditions. Whether it's Christianity, you go to South Africa, you go to any place in Africa, you won't recognize a Catholic there because their traditions will be different. They'll be more closer to an African Muslim than they would be to an American Christian, because that's how the cultural influences will be. And that's where you see this. You see this because this is what the culture is in Afghanistan. This is what the culture is in Saudi Arabia or Yemen. And therefore, that garb of Mary got influenced by the culture of a particular place. And I don't think I have time, but there's a real tug of war going in families whether girls should wear hijab or not. And guess what the tug of war is all about? Girls not wanting to wear it, right? No. Girls wanting to wear it and parents don't want them to wear it. That's the bigger tug of war in our households these days. Girls want to send a message, who they are, more often than they don't want to send a message. That's a tug of war that goes on. So, so women have a very special place in Islam. Christianity and Judaism blame woman for the original sin. We don't. In Quran, original sin is mentioned 7 times. 6 times it says they, Adam and Eve both. One place it says he. So whatever it's worth, we exonerated the woman from the original sin. And the first Muslim was a woman after Prophet Muhammad, you know, declared Islam. The person who became Muslim was a woman. The first person who actually was an employer and a business person was a woman in Islam, not a man. So for any culture to say that women can't drive, they can't go out, they cannot go to school, they cannot, own business, is not based on religion whatsoever. It has nothing to do with our scriptures. It has everything to do with the local culture. All right? So I just threw it there because this is, very commonly thought about that. So I do want to leave a couple of minutes for question. I'm just going to highlight these. These are very cardinal principles in Islam, and these are not so well known. I'm going to stop here. I'll leave this on and open it up to questions because I think there are some questions there that I didn't touch on. So thanks again for your attention. It was a great breakfast. I'm not used to this great breakfast, so I hope I'm not spoiled. And so the first question, Muslim country with the largest population, Saudi Arabia, obviously is not true. It doesn't show up in top 10 countries at all. 50% of Muslims are of Arab descent. Obviously that's not true either. Just about 20% or less are of Arab extraction. Abraham is the patriarch. That is true. We believe that Abraham is the patriarch of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. And all the biblical stories you may remember about Mary, birth of Jesus, or Abraham and Isaac and Ishmael and Hagar, and those are all carried on into our scriptures as well. Muslims worship a deity, Allah, that's unique only to Islam. That's not true. We believe that our deity, creator, is the same who created everybody else. We don't have a separate God. We say Allah because, if you look at the English language and you want to say the word God, you want to, define our creator, God has problem in the English language. You can write it with a big G or a small g, as if there's a big God and a small God, right? That you can assign sexuality to it, God and goddess, as if there's a male God and a female God, right? And then you can assign plurality to it, as if there are many gods. See, Allah is a very unique word in Arabic, like Elohim in Hebrew. You can't assign sexuality, you can assign numbers, you can't say big and small, nothing. It's a unique word that stands by itself. So we like to use the word Allah because it defines God in a real fashion. But in everyday language, we'll obviously use God with a capital G. Suicide bombing is part of Islamic teaching? Absolutely not. It is specifically prohibited. Islam forbids women's education? Absolutely not. It is so much emphasized that everybody should be educated, including women. Jihad is synonymous with holy war? No. There is actually no concept of holy war in Islam. It's a topic in itself. Muslims do not have divine scriptures. No, we do. Like Old Testament and New Testament, we call our holy book as the last testament, Quran. In Islam, women does not have property. That's not true either. In Islam, there's a very well-defined inheritance guaranteed to women. It was the first sort of divine revelation where women were given inheritance rights. Islam believes in caste system. We don't believe in caste system. In our faith, everybody is equal. And only your deeds define you, not the household you were born in or the color you have. No. Your deeds define you. And that's how you will be, judged on the day of judgment. Marriage in Islam is based on a written document. Would you believe it? It is true. Prenup came to our shores how long ago? 100 years ago? 200 years ago? A written document in Islam is from day one. Marriage in Islam is a written document where the man and the woman can put conditions. So it is nothing new. It's an original over 1400 years ago. Islam provides for equal rights. Absolutely. They may not be identical because we're not identical in our anatomy, in our physiology, so they are equal. So I'm going to stop here. I just wanted to make sure I cover these questions. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I applaud the efforts of defining the Muslim and the religion and that type of thing. Why do you feel it got to the point that that needs to happen?
Because we don't control the world politics, we don't control the media here. And we have done some bad deeds, like everybody else. And one of the reasons maybe we don't have a pope, we don't have a structure where there is a hierarchical system and somebody is sitting on top. No. Our religion and faith is very private between the individual and the creator. And there are no intermediaries, none whatsoever. Therefore, it is left open to a lot of interpretation and a lot of individual decisions and actions. There may be a little more structure in Shiites now than Sunnis, but in general, we don't have the firm structure of a religion. So it's not an organized religion in the context that we know in the West. There is a tremendous amount of individual freedoms and individual decisions. I'm not sure that I can answer this in such a short time because it's a very loaded question. It has political implications. It has social implications. There's a tremendous amount of poverty. There's a tremendous amount of illiteracy. There's a tremendous amount of dictatorships. So there are a lot of reasons that we are where we are.
Thank you, Doctor.
Any other question? Yes, ma'am. Yes, I love to go back home as often as I can, but it's an occupied country, and it's not always that easy. But we try, yes. Yes.
Well, it's always a great pleasure to have you in the
Thank you,
company.
Doug. Thank you so much.
Just a small, quick thing. There's a teaching, and I shared this with Dr. Qazi. He knows the teaching. Jesus taught about the Good Samaritan. And what's in the teaching is about the Samaritan and the Jews. And the Jews actually paid no attention to the guy on the road, but only the Good Samaritan. If you know the Samaritans and the Jews, they hated each other. And they actually worshipped, they had, their God was God of Abraham. Both of them. They were no different than us, than the Muslims. One of the things I want to say is Dr. Qazi is a Good Samaritan. From a group that there is a conflict between us and Muslims. And he's showing that his God of Abraham is the same God. And he is trying to do just as good as a Good Samaritan in the community. And I'll just leave it at that, is that if you understand that idea to love your neighbor, that's a really hard thing when he's an enemy. And he is trying to show you that it's not an enemy. They're just the same. He has the same grandchildren, the same family, same smile, still the finger in the nose. It's a real thing. And Christ was trying to say, these are real people. Treat them that way. And we need to be in that relationship with them because they want to be in relationship with us. So I think it's a neat thing to leave you with today. Hope you learned something a little different than you would ever do. And it's exciting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.